Okay, so today we're going to be asking the question, what is slope? And in front of me here I have my coordinate grid or my plane. I'm going to start off by doing exactly what we've done so far, which is to select a point. So I'm picking this point here. Okay, it is the point A, and it is along as far as -3, up as far as 2. So A is -3, 2. And I'm also going to select the point B, which is here, and B is the point along as far as 2, down as far as -2. So it is 2, -2. Okay, what we've looked at so far is we've looked at taking these 2 points, A and B, and connecting them. So you can see I have connected them, and that is now the line AB. Okay, so if I asked you to find the distance of AB, so I would be using this symbol here, that would be to ask you to find the length of A and B. Another thing we've looked at is finding the midpoint of AB. You can see that's the symbol for finding the midpoint, and that asks me to find the center point between the line AB. But if I ask you to find the slope, essentially what does that mean? Well, slope is really another word for gradient, or another word we've often used is steepness. So I'm sure you've all seen a treadmill before. Well, what treadmills do is they have a button here that allows you to change the incline. And another word for incline is, you guessed it, today's keyword, slope. So they allow you to change the slope by pressing some buttons here. So we can see this girl here is on a very flat line. So if I was to draw a line to describe that, a nice straight line, and we would say the slope of that is 0. Obviously, you try and get to work your little calves here, so you might try and get a little bit more pressure on them so you can change your slope. So you can see that this lady here has upped her slope, and if I was to draw a line to represent it, it would probably look like this. And we would say that this is a positive slope. Okay, so can we make it more positive? Can we make this slope stronger? Well, yes, we can. Don't know how it would really work in a gym, but you can see here we can have an infinite slope in the sense that it is completely vertical. But if we have positive slopes and no slopes and infinite slopes, in the sense that it goes on to infinity, we can also have my favorite type of slope, which is a negative slope. So if I was to draw a line to represent this, it would be downward line, and we refer to this one as a negative. Okay, so the most important thing about slopes is that you can recognize when the slope is 0, when the slope is positive, and when the slope is negative. Infinite slopes don't really come up at junior cert level. Okay, so here we have a selection of lines, and we're asked to explain whether the slopes here are positive, negative, or 0. Some people ask me, they can say, well, you can see that this one here is going up, but if you were to read it this way, it's going down. So what way do we read them? So if I wrote this sentence up here, my name is, everyone would always begin on the left, and it's the same with slopes. We read from left to right. Okay, so we have a line here, A, as we can see, if we start on the left, it's getting bigger, and we refer to that as a positive slope. And you can see if I was to place a bike on that, the bike would be going uphill, so it's a positive slope. The next one here is a slope of 0, a flat line. So we would just say that that has no slope, or a slope of 0. Letter C here, if we have a look at it, if we read from left to right, we can see it's going downwards. So we refer to that as a negative slope. And again, I've just placed my bike on that just so you can see that the bike is going downhill and that's a negative. So D, E and F, I want you to have a look at them and hopefully you'll notice that D from left to right is going downwards, so that is a negative. I'm just going to put a minus sign there for negative. E is going upwards, so that is a positive. And F is going downwards, so again we're back to a negative. So first things first is that you can read whether your slopes are going to be positive or negative. Okay, so we can tell if the slope is going to be negative or positive, but how can we find the slope of each of the lines? There are two methods for doing this. The first one is through reading the graph, and the second, much like our distance and our midpoint, is using a formula. We're going to first look at reading the graph. We can find the slope by reading a graph by using a formula called rise over run. And you've met this line before, and this line means division. In order for us to calculate this properly, we need to find, first of all, two clear points. So what do I mean by that if you're not sure? If I was to insert a small plane here, a coordinate grid, okay, and you can see we have our y-axis, our x-axis, we have the line K, the line M and the line L on it. First of all, we should be able to spot whether our slopes are going to be negative or positive. So the line K will have a negative slope and the line M will have a positive slope and the line N will have a slope of 0. But what do I mean by picking two clear points? So if I was to number my graph, and I say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and along the x-axis I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm looking at the point M, and I want to pick two clear points. Can you see the way the line M definitely 100% goes through this point here, which is the point 1 and 3. So along as far as 1 up as far as 3. We can clearly see that that's where that line meets. Whereas if I was to say this point here, well, we could say, well, it's along as far as 2.5, 2.6, up as far as 3.4, 3.5. Very difficult to see. So that's what I'm saying by two clear points that you can easily see them. Another clear point on this line would be this point here, which is the point 4, 4. It's clearly along that line, 4, 4. And then another clear point on that line, well, it would be this one here, wouldn't it? Which is the point 7, 5. So that's what I mean about two clear points that you can easily identify. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to apply the rise over run method, which is basically you find out how much you rise by and how much you run by to reach the other point. So I'm going to do it on this graph here and zoom in. So my two clear points on the line A, I'm going to use my two end points. Okay, and we can clearly see that this is going to be a positive graph. So how much do I rise by and how much do I run by in order to get those two dots to meet? So I rise by 1, 2, 3, and I run by 1, 2, 3. So the slope of A, which is equal to rise over run, which is I rise by 3 and I run by 3, the slope of that is equal to 1. If I was to look at C, I'm going to just zoom out so I have a little bit more room here. Again, step 1, pick two clear points. So you're not going to pick a point here because it's too difficult to read, whereas this one is in between the boxes, perfectly aligned. So I'm going to pick my two endpoints, 1 and 2. And we can see that this is obviously a negative graph, which means my answer will be a negative. So here we had +1 for this one here. Okay, so how much do I rise by? And generally we always start these from left to right. So you can see here, I actually, in order for me to get from here to here, I actually fall. I don't rise. So in a sense, if I was to say I rise by 1, 2, 3, which is I rise by -3, and I run by 1, 2, 3, and I run by 3. And so -3 over 3, the slope to B is equal to -1. Moving in further now, I'm just going to have a look and see if I can find the slope of the line M here. So this is the line M. I've already marked in 3 points. I'm just going to use 2. So I'm going to use this point here and this point here. And again, it's rise over run, but I can tell that my answer is going to be positive. And so I'm going to select, how do I get from this point here to this point here? And so I will need to rise by 2. So it will be rise by 2. And I've just come out. Oops. Come out. So this is the line M. So M is equal to rise over run. And so I'm rising by 2. And let's have a look and see how much am I running by. Rise by 2 and I run by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So to get from that point to this point, I run by 6. And so it'll be 2 over 6, which also can be broken down to 1/3. We generally always leave our answer as a fraction, unless it can be simplified to a whole number. And that will help us later on with regards writing the equations for lines. So the first way you can find the slope of a graph is to do rise over run, which means you pick 2 clear points, decide obviously first of all if it's positive or negative, and then follow the formula rise over run. So from one point, how much do I rise by and how much do I run by to get to the other point? And we always read from left to right. If I'm not rising, if I'm falling, that means I will rise by -3, which will essentially just give me my negative number, which I could spot anyway from looking at it. Okay, so what if we were asked to draw a line that had a slope of 1/2? Well, the best way we can do this is we can think about the formula, which is of course rise over run. And so from this, I can tell that I need to rise by 1 and run by 2. And obviously we know that 1/2 is going to be a positive slope. So it's going to be going in this direction anyway. So what I do is I pick any point on the graph. So I'm just going to pick this one here. And I follow exactly as I'm told. So I need to draw a line that has a slope of 1/2, which means I rise by 1 and I run by 2. Now, if I was to draw a line like that, just like that, you can see there, that has got a slope of 1/2, but it's quite a short line. So what we do is we repeat that process a few times just to get a clearer line. So I rise by 1, run by 2, place a dot, rise by 1, run by 2, place a dot, rise by 1, run by 2. And I can now draw a much stronger line in the sense that a line that that fits that. So you can see there, that is a positive slope and it's actually got a slope of 1/2. Rise by 1, run by 2. The second one we're asked to draw has got a slope of -2. So again, we write that as a fraction, which is -2 over 1, which means I rise by -2 and I run by 1. So again, select a point anywhere on the graph. I'm going to go with this. And I rise by -2 means obviously I fall by 2 and I run by 1. Draw my line. I fall by 2, I run by 1, I fall by 2, I run by 1. And I can now clearly fill in a line that hits all of those points. And so this one here represents line 1, a positive line which has a slope of 1/2. And this blue line here represents line 2, which has a slope of -2 and a much steeper slope there going down. So your first learning check tonight is to find the slope of Q and R, and obviously these are on graphs, and this would be the first method, method 1, which is rise over run.